sometimes even good people can make a mistake. And when it happens, it's one of the most intense and emotional experiences of your life. It could be a DUI, or maybe you were in the wrong place with the wrong people at the wrong time. Or perhaps you just did something stupid at the spur of the moment without even thinking, and now you're in trouble with the law. Well, you need experienced legal help right away so you don't become a victim of the criminal justice system. Even good people can make a mistake, and if you, a friend, or a loved one has been accused of a crime, don't make another mistake by hiring the wrong attorney for the kind of help you need. You need to visit toddjohnslaw.com. That's toddjohnslaw.com, and then call Attorney Todd Johns today. Attorney Todd Johns has decades of experience helping good people like you who have made mistakes or bad decisions and will stand by you every step of the way. toddjohnslaw.com.
Judy's Journeys is an online travel agency specializing in family vacation planning. Now booking 2024 and 2025 vacation packages for theme parks, cruise lines, all-inclusive resorts, and more. Judy's Journeys books Disney hotel and resort packages, car rentals, excursions, and flights so that you can make amazing memories and enjoy all of the rides and attractions you love. Judy's Journeys also books Universal vacation packages, all-inclusive resort vacations, cruises, and land tours for families and small groups. Family vacation doesn't just mean mom, dad, kids, and grandparents. It can also be a family-friendly environment for an adults-only vacation. Visit www.judysjourneys.net to book your next family vacation. Book before June 30th, 2024 to receive a free gift. And we thank Judy's Journeys for sponsoring That's Enough Out of You. That's Enough Out of You. I am your host, Bill Rader, and joining me, as he always does, is my co-host, Sean Kane. Sean, what's going on?
Billy Raids, how you doing, buddy?
We're doing pretty good today. Can't complain. Got the Rangers' first playoff game today, this afternoon, so I'm excited about that.
Yeah, we had Notre Dame blue and gold game yesterday. Watched it with Nathan. It was just fantastic, buddy. There's so much talent, buddy.
Yeah.
Loved it. And it's a game they can't lose, buddy, you know?
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, this is a good time of year for sports. You got the NBA and NHL playoffs going on. You got the football draft. You got baseball starting up. So I really like this timing. I think the fall is my favorite time of year for sports, but
right, I agree.
Spring is pretty good too. Spring is pretty close. So
yeah, we got baseball going, buddy. You know, the Red Sox started out 7-3 on a West Coast trip, and then they come home and they're like 3-7.
Yeah.
And then they play 2 more on the road and win. So 9-3 on the road and 3-7 at home. Figure that. But when you go into the season with no expectations, like I did,
right,
you know, anything's a surprise. So
yeah. And we'll see about the Yankees this year too. I think they got off to a hot start, but I think they're going to come back to earth. I think they just don't have the pitching. So
we got a good lineup, though.
It's a great lineup. Yeah, it's a much better lineup. I mean, definitely you got righties and lefties in the lineup this year. You got Soto, obviously, which is a game changer. But we'll see what happens. It's very early in the season. I don't really even start paying attention until after the hockey playoffs. So, all right. Well, we got a great episode. We got lots of questions and comments that we're going to get to. We want to start. Speaking of sports, we have. I know.
Well, wait, Bill. Before we get into that, buddy.
Yeah.
Let's just talk about. I want to talk about a couple new patrons that we got.
Okay.
We got Dave Capwell joined. He just started listening to us, and he started binge listening. So he listened to about 20 episodes real quick, and so far his favorites are Charles Manson episode and Castellano episode.
Yeah.
So he joined Patreon. We thank him.
Yeah, thank you.
Then Dan H from California. I don't want to give his full name because Dan's a longtime listener, really from the beginning. But when he comments, he goes under an alias. So I don't want to, give his name out, but we appreciate Dan. And we're gonna have big stuff coming to Patreon. We're gonna have something called the Speakeasy that's gonna be up, and we're gonna be putting premium content on there only for Patreon. And we're still gonna have the free shows every week.
Right.
But we are gonna put premium content on there. So if you're not signed up, sign up. And then if you can join any tier and get the premium content. But if you join the $10 tier, you get a call with me and Billy, video call, 15 minutes. Whatever you want to talk about, we're open to it.
Yep.
And the other thing I want to mention, Billy, before we get into a topic, is the sponsorship. We got sponsors. We're looking to add more. We give a reasonable rate, really reasonable. We're not looking to gouge people, and we give them a lot of exposure.
Right.
They get, we're on 30 applications on the episodes. We put an ad out. We put the logo on all our social media, on our website. So we give businesses a lot of exposure at a really good rate. So anybody that has a small business, knows anybody, we're looking to add.
Yeah.
We want to grow this podcast, buddy.
And we've added a new sponsor, I think, since the last time we talked about our sponsors. Bob Connors has joined us, and Bob is fantastic. He's a realtor in the area, in the Scranton area. When we sold my mother-in-law's house, he was our realtor, and he did. I mean, we really didn't have to do much at all. He did everything. He took care of everything. He got us the absolute best possible situation, best possible deal, and it was done within a very short period of time. So there were no hassles. There was no, usually with selling a house, there's so much pressure, there's so much aggravation, and just a lot of tension and nervousness. With Bob, there was really not. I mean, he took care of everything. If we needed anything at all, we just texted him or called him. He took care of it. So, if you are in the market for a new house and you don't have an agent, or if you're selling your house, I can't recommend Bob Connors enough. He's fantastic. Plus, he's a great guy. We coached Little League together, and I've known him for many years. He's a really, really good guy. So, again, Bob Connors, and it's I forget the name of the the agency. Was it Christian?
It's Christian Saunders.
Saunders Real Estate. Christian Saunders Real Estate. So yeah, definitely look him up on Facebook. We've got links all over the place. Very, very highly recommended.
And anybody can message me too if you want more information. We'll put you in touch with any of our sponsors.
Absolutely. All right, Sean. So I know you wanted to talk about Caitlin Clark a little bit before we start our questions and our comments. And the floor is yours. I've got a lot to say about it. I know there's been some controversy as of late, but
Sure.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Well, I just want to say, I mean, Caitlin Clark has been the face of women's basketball, and honestly, Bill, she's so fun to watch because she plays the game. She does everything right, on the field, off the field. She's a role model for young women that want to play sports, or just people in general, to be honest with you. And she plays the game like Larry Bird. Reminds me of the way she plays, like just sees the whole court and does so many different things. And she's a shooter, really deadly shooter. And she's the face of basketball, women's basketball, which I've always had an interest. I follow Notre Dame women basketball. They have a good program, they have a good coach, and she's brought people to watch it that you never would think would watch women's basketball, Billy. Like, talk to people out there, and it's amazing how many people are interested now. And the ratings, look at the ratings in the game she played. And of course, with that, the success like that, you're always going to have these idiots, these keyboard tough guys on the internet and stuff saying all these things. And you're always going to have comments from somebody. And it's just amazing, some of the negativity out there. But she's just the face of women's basketball. It's great, great role model, Billy.
Yeah. I agree with you, Sean. I enjoy the women's game at this point even more than I do the men's game, because
I agree.
They play sort of that, that older style, that's not, everything's not a 3-pointer or a layup like it is in the men's game. They still shoot, and they pass. The passing is very, very creative, and they just do a lot of things that the reason I started watching basketball back, years and years ago is because of the entertainment value, the creativity. And now it's just, the men's game has just become it's almost like I said, it's like a 3-point shooting contest. But yeah. And I know that there was some, there's been a lot said about, well, she's only going to make like $74,000 with her WNBA contract, her rookie contract. And, you can't compare that to the NBA.
You can't, because the ratings, bro.
Right. It's apples and wrenches. It's two completely different things. Even when you look at it's the rating, Sean, it's the revenue that they bring in. And also the fact that, the NBA owns the WNBA, right? It's subsidized by the NBA. So they're there to back the WNBA. And, it's unfortunate, but honestly, if that wasn't the case, I don't think there would be a WNBA, because women's professional sports just don't seem to make it, in this country. And that's not a criticism. It's just the way it is. I mean, Sean, what's the most popular sport in the world?
Soccer.
And it doesn't succeed in this country.
It doesn't.
We have a major league soccer, league in this country that, could you name one player other than like Messi, who, I know that I couldn't name a single player.
No.
But
a couple of things on that, Billy. First of all, she's going to make a lot of money on endorsements. She already signed an 8-figure Nike deal. Yeah, right. So she's going to be fine. But the thing is, though, if her agent was smart, Billy, he would have, she signed a 4-year deal. I'm sure there's some clause in there when the ratings go up that she'll get a little more, because she is going to bring eyeballs to the NBA, WNBA, just like she did with college basketball. Yep. So the ratings will go up.
Yep.
And her next contract should be a lot more after the 4 years, if she doesn't avoid injury and everything else. And so she's going to be all right. She's making a deal. The Nike deal is going to that's a great deal. Right. She'll have other endorsements, Billy, because she is the face of women's basketball, and she's just a great role model overall. Absolutely.
Totally agree. You even look at like hockey. The highest paid player in the NHL, who is Connor McDavid, who is the best player in the world. He makes $13 million a year, on his deal, on his hockey contract. I mean, I'm sure he makes a lot more in endorsements, especially in Canada.
Sure.
$13 million, in baseball or in football, it's like a middle of the road, it's a middle of the road player. So it's all, relative to the popularity of the sport, the revenue that sport brings in, the television contracts that they get. And, again, we'll see what happens, but she's going to be fine. I think she's going to bring a lot more eyeballs to the sport. And, it's only going in the right direction. It's only going up. So.
And some of the negativity, Billy, like you got idiots like Antonio Brown making comments, and just so many different people just out there. Anytime somebody has a success, they got to knock them down,
right,
or knock her down, and it's just it's ridiculous. Some of these keyboard tough guys out there. Social media is a cesspool, Billy. You know that. And it's
I agree. Totally
amazing some of the stuff that's said behind a keyboard.
Yep. But all right. So Sean, let's get into the questions. Oh, hang on a second. I had my sheet up, and now I don't know what happened to it.
Once again, Billy, a lot of great questions.
A lot of great questions and comments. So really, let's just get right into it, Sean. I'm gonna go with the first one here. All right, Mr. Duncan in Auckland, New Zealand. Bill and Sean, I'm thinking of starting a podcast. You gents have inspired me with your hard work. Do you have any advice? Wow.
Want me to start, Billy?
Yeah, go ahead. I mean, that's amazing, Mr. Duncan. I good luck. Yeah, Sean, go ahead.
Well, I mean, the first advice I would give him is you have to love it. You have to love doing it. Like me and Billy love doing it. It's a lot of work. Don't think, if you want to do it right, it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
So if you're just going to get a microphone and just say a couple of things and not really put a lot into it, that's fine too. But if you really want it to be successful, it's a lot of work. It's like a job and it's a grind at times. But thing is, you have to be consistent with the content you put out. You have to enjoy doing it, and you have to, you have to appreciate your listeners. That's the most important thing. Like, and anybody who helps you, we appreciate everybody who helps us. And you have to think outside the box, Billy. You can't just go into thinking, well, I'm going to rely on friends and family, because honestly, most of our, probably 99% of our listeners are people we didn't know before. And that's incredible. And you have to appreciate them. And when they ask you questions and stuff, you have to, I try to answer all the questions on social media, and it's overwhelming at times. It's amazing how the feedback we get, but you have to think outside the box, and you can't get frustrated. And I used to get it at the beginning that, you think people are going to help you, and friends and family, and then some of them don't. Most of them don't. 99% won't.
Right.
And there's a lot of, you got to appreciate the ones that do, Bill, because some people can't afford to give any money. That's fine. Some people aren't even interested in the content, which is fine. But we'll have like cousins or friends or something that, they'll see our posts. Maybe they don't listen to the episodes because they're just not interested in the content, but they'll see our posts.
Right.
And they'll share it on social media. They'll like it. They'll comment, "Oh, I'm proud of these guys, proud to call them my cousins," or whatever. That helps. Like any kind of, because then their friends see that. So you have to appreciate that, kind of support too, not just people that are on our Patreon or whatever sponsorship. And you got to be, you got to help your sponsors when there's a responsibility. When somebody becomes a sponsor for you, you got to, go all out advertising for them.
Right.
And, that's what we try to do. We put the ads out there on the podcast, but we also on social media pounding it and telling all our listeners, use our sponsors if you need them.
Absolutely.
And stuff like that. And you have to appreciate that, Billy. And if Mr. Duncan, if you need any advice, just reach out to us. We'll help you. And we had people help us.
Sure.
And we got kind of lucky with the network. We started with the authors because, we started with Lisa Pease, and we got lucky with that because she was nice enough to respond to us immediately, and she started the network. And from there we got Jim D'Eugenio, and he got us guys, and Professor Paul Blow, and then we got into the research project, and just it mushroomed from there. So you start small, you appreciate all your listeners, love what you're doing, and put out consistent content. That's the best advice I could give you.
Yeah. And if you are going to have guests, not every podcast you have to have guests, but if you are going to have guests, you have to seek them out, and you have to be somewhat aggressive. Nobody's going to come to you. Nobody's looking for you. So, you have to really do that yourself. And that's what Sean and I have done. And we've put together, I think, a pretty good network of guests, and we're always expanding it. We're always looking for more people. And the other thing is, I don't know what your topic is going to be, Mr. Duncan, but I would recommend a topic that, you'll never run out of things to discuss. Like, for us, I mean, we pretty much talk about anything. We, history obviously is our main topic. Right. And we're never going to run out of historical events. There's just an endless supply, an endless list of things to talk about with regard to that. So,
but Billy, the topic that you do choose, make sure you know that topic pretty good.
Sure.
And also, when you have guests on, do your homework, do your research.
Yeah.
And in this way, that's why I think a lot of the guests like to come on our show, because we don't, we know a lot about I read the books that comes on, the authors, and we do the research beforehand, so we're not surprising them. We're not asking them stuff that we don't know ourselves. Like, we're really, you gotta love doing this, and you gotta put the work in, Billy. It's a lot of work. It's promoting it. It's doing the research. It's the editing.
Yep.
Like, Billy does all the editing. He does the graphics. That's it's all of that takes time. So you got to really love what you're doing, and put the work in. And if you put out consistent content, the people come, they'll listen to it.
Absolutely. So, yeah, thank you. I mean, wow, for us to have inspired somebody to do their own podcast, it's great. I never imagined that we'd be doing that. So thank
Especially
you.
Someone from New Zealand, Billy.
Yeah, exactly.
New Zealand.
Well, thank you, Mr. Duncan. We appreciate it. All right. Our next comment, we actually have two from this listener, The Latest Flame. This one is about the episode we did with Matt Crumpton. And he says, great episode. It's nice to hear a deep dive like this, which shows just how much information is known, but ignored the facts and circumstances of JFK's murder and Tippett's as well. If Matt's band plays in Milwaukee, someone tell me, I'll go check it out. I would say follow Matt. I think his band has a Facebook page. So
I believe so. Yeah.
I can't remember. I'm terrible with names, Sean. I can never remember names.
Well, if you go on social media, his podcast is called Solving JFK.
Right.
Go on there. You could reach out to Matt through there. And that's another thing, Billy, going back to Mr. Duncan's question.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid of competition either. Like,
right.
don't and Andrew mentioned that in the episode that we're not like, we'll bring on Matt Crumpton. He has a podcast that does a lot of the same stuff we do.
Right.
But we don't look at it as competition. We look at it as we can help each other. He's a truth seeker, just like we are. So we're not going to go at it like a rivalry. We're going to look at it as two brothers working on the same goal. So
yeah, absolutely.
That's important too.
Yep.
But yeah, that was an important episode with Matt. And we're going to have him back. He's coming back to talk about some of the great subjects on his podcast, because he gives it interesting, Billy, where he looks at it from both sides. So he'll bring on the lone nutters,
right?
Which he don't like to call them lone nutters, but I do, because I've had it with those people. But he brings that side too. And then he'll bring the conspiracy side, and he'll show both sides of it. So it's a little bit different than.
Yeah, he's really open to, people saying, hey, you know what, you got that wrong. Here's why, here's the information. And he's, not saying we're not, but we certainly are. But I think that's a big part of his show, is he likes to, if he is wrong, he definitely he'll come back and say it. And hey, listen, here's what I found out. And, here's the information that's going to clear all that up. So he does a lot of that stuff too.
And he's also newer to the field. So he hasn't been doing it as long as some other people, even myself, who's been interested in this, since I was in high school.
Right.
So I already went down the lone nut scenarios a million times. So I went down that road, and I found out that, most of that is it's garbage. So
yeah,
that's why, I don't, it's not that I just dismiss it. It's just that I already went down there, and I know, I'm not open to something that I know is wrong.
Right.
So,
Yep.
But it's good to see both sides.
Absolutely. All right. So, and then the next comment from the latest flame, this was about the Monica Wiseguy episode. This was not the Michael Jackson one. This was This was the second episode we did with Monica about JFK.
Right. And we talked about like assassinations, like Dag Hammarskjöld and the Congo. We were talking about her with that episode.
Right. So latest flame says, great episode. Once again, Monica cuts to the heart of the JFK presidency, what his actions were and why they were so important. And all of his actions, policies, policies were reversed almost immediately after November 22nd. Kids and adults today have no conception of what the world would have looked like had JFK and RFK lived, because the truth is omitted, obscured, or ignored by academia and media.
Yeah, great point. Great point. It's all ignored. And, the fact that Lyndon Johnson reversed all of Kennedy's policies, it's not taught in schools, and it's not told in the mainstream media. And that's the problem, Billy. And that's the problem. The academia, the media, and Hollywood. Hollywood is a big problem with Kennedy, Billy. The way, outside of Oliver Stone, the way Kennedy's portrayed, we had Jim on recently talking about that garbage Brad Pitt project on Marilyn Monroe. It was just total nonsense.
Right. Yep.
We got the Al Pacino garbage movie coming out about Giancana and the 1960 election that we had Jim on and prove that was not fixed.
Right.
And all that's, but this movie's going to come out, and then we're going to have to answer questions. Leonardo DiCaprio's father was working on a movie on Carlos Marcello. We talked about that a million times ad nauseum, Billy.
Yep.
So yeah, we got to keep answering these questions, because Hollywood keeps failing 100% on everything on the Kennedys and Marilyn Monroe. Hollywood is an epic fail. So they're just as big a problem as academia and the mainstream media.
Yep. No, I totally agree. Totally agree. All right. So, yep. Thank you, latest flame. All right. And then next, American Patriot. He's our biggest fan. American Patriot identifies as a man. He says our show is such a gift. The only person he likes more than us is Taylor Swift. All right, American Patriot. And I'll tell you what, Sean. All right, I'll read the comment. Now you people are writing songs about me. You two traitors are obsessed with me. It makes sense since all your success is because of me. Enjoy it now, because once the second coming gets back in the White House for life, then anti-American shows like yours will be banned. So maybe then you can go work for Taylor Swift in Canada, because she won't be allowed to spread her lies in the US anymore. Maybe you guys can carry her equipment. Call your show the AP show, Trump 2024. I'm not even going to comment on the comment, because clearly American Patriot needs psychiatric care. I think he's to the point now where, he's beyond anything that we could do. So I will say this, and this is something interesting that was brought up on, I think it was Bill Maher's podcast. And that is what happens, Sean, in November when Trump loses. It's the end of the Republican Party, because where are they going from here? They have literally everything that they have done over the last 8 years, more than that, is to get Donald Trump elected. They have poured every resource. They have every single, all of these Republicans are now his minions. And there's nobody else in the Republican Party that they can look to for leadership. So what do? They're eating themselves. They're cannibalizing themselves. And once he's defeated in November, I think the party's done. I honestly don't see them being able to recover.
No, I agree. But what the flip side to that is, what if he wins?
Well, he's not going to win. All right. If he does win, we'll worry about that. Okay. But I
agree, but
I can't see. I don't know. I just don't see. He lost the first time and he wasn't a convicted felon. Or not that he lost the first time, but he lost to Biden last time and he wasn't a convicted felon. This time he's going to be a convicted felon. So, what?
Well, Bill, I also think that I think women are going to come out and really vote strong against Trump. I think senior citizens are going to come out strong against Trump. So I think that's where he's going to lose, because, the thing is, it's the MAGA Republicans that are talking about stuff like taking away Social Security and Medicare and stuff like that.
Right.
And they've been wanting to do that from the beginning. And that really irritates me on Social Security, because, Billy, I don't care if maybe you don't need the money. Like, if I don't need the money and I want to give my Social Security to you, that's fine. It's my money. It's your money, Bill. They took it out of her paycheck for years.
Right.
And then these politicians who get everything handed to them, haircuts and transportation and everything for free, they want to take that Social Security. Like Reagan started this nonsense, taxing it, and that's our money. That's the people's money. They're stealing from the people.
Right.
And that's the one thing that drives me crazy about the MAGA Republicans. And it's people like Taylor Greene, and Trump, and they're the ones that want to take that away. So I think that's where the senior citizens are going to say enough is enough.
Right.
Because a lot of people need that.
Yeah, I agree. I hope
you
so.
Don't need it, Billy. It's your money.
Sure. All right. I hope you're right, Sean. So again, don't want to get into
But it's still the country's still gonna have major problems, Billy, no matter what happens.
Absolutely.
You know, the stuff that we talk about, everything went downhill since JFK. That's not changing.
Right.
But the thing is, you know, this thing like the American Patriot says, you know, maybe shows like ours will be banned. Who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe they will.
Yeah, you never know. All right. Let's move on.
Go ahead.
We got a couple of comments from Don McGovern, who we've had on the show many times, talked about Don Monroe. So Don, on our last question episode, he's commenting, if I might be allowed to throw in my 2 cents for Austin and Sweden. I don't remember Austin's comment or question last time.
It was something about Billy, just something about, I think he was surprised that all the stuff on Marilyn Monroe gets out, like all the disinformation. He just made a comment about how it's amazing how people buy it and, you know, they believe it and stuff like that. I think it was something like that.
Yeah.
Or no, you know what it was, Billy? It was, I think he's the one that said, if people talk about it, there's got to be something to
right.
it.
That's what it was. That's what it was.
Yeah. That's what it was.
So Don is responding to Austin in Sweden, saying the very fact that Marilyn's death has been discussed for 62 years, resulting in multiple theories that are nothing more than conspiratorial speculations, means this. None of the speculations, none of the theories, none of the conspiracies have any validity whatsoever. Additionally, like Sean and Bill asked, where is the actual verifiable evidence that she was murdered? Well, there isn't any. The only actual verifiable evidence is contained in her autopsy report, which is clearly pointing to suicide. So that's it.
Yep.
In my opinion, case closed, Sean. I don't think there's much else to say on that.
No, there isn't. Don he's the best authority on Marilyn Monroe. There's no doubt about it.
Yep, I agree. All right. DK's Corner, located on 802 East Lackawanna Avenue in Oliphant, Pennsylvania. Visit DK's Corner for hot and cold sandwiches, soups, salads, pizza, and delicious breakfast, including breakfast sandwiches, specialty coffees, and DK's Razzle Dazzle flavor shaken espressos. And take it from me, the best cheesesteaks around. Follow DK's Corner on Facebook and Instagram, or call them at 570-209-0278 to find out about their daily specials and catering. Check out DK's Corner, Oliphant's little hoagie shop. And we thank DK's Corner for sponsoring That's Enough Out of You. That's DK's Corner in Oliphant, Pennsylvania. And we would like to thank our sponsor, Gracious Day Grains. Sean, you like to eat healthy, don't you?
Always, buddy. I try to eat healthy as much as I can.
Yeah, and there is nothing healthier than what they call like farm to table, right? So when you can get something right from the ground and make it and then put it right on your table. And Gracious Day Grains, they have a tremendous selection, and it's totally organic. Everything is, they don't use any sort of herbicides or pesticides or anything like that. They have a bunch of different products on their website, Gracious Day Grains. So if you go to graciousdaymilling.com, you'll find a bunch of great stuff there, Sean.
Yeah, you will, Billy. And it's owned by Tom Maxey, who's a great guy from Virginia. He's a truth seeker, just like me and you, buddy. And Tom's growing philosophy follows the wisdom of farmers of centuries past. And a quote from Tom is, if we practice the right rotations, we exclude the bugs and weeds without needing herbicides or pesticides. So, I mean, this is great, Billy. I mean, what he's doing is fantastic.
There's cornbread mix, there's cornmeal, popcorn he sells, buckwheat Sean, have you had buckwheat pancakes?
No, buddy.
Oh they're delicious. I love buckwheat pancakes. And Gracious Day Grains sells buckwheat pancakes. Just go to their website and you'll be able to find all of this stuff there. You can order it right off the website. You can find out all about how they farm and their whole philosophy, Tom's philosophy. It's great stuff.
It really is, Billy. And one of the things he does is he grinds small batches at very low temperatures, which retains the flavor and the freshness.
Of course. And it can't get any fresher than that. I mean, it's literally right from the ground. So again, go to graciousdaymilling.com and just, take a look on there. You can order whatever you want, and they'll send it right to your door. I mean, again, it doesn't get any fresher than that, right from Tom's farm to your door to your table. So
absolutely. And eat healthy, and you'll feel better.
Absolutely. I wish I could do that. I wish I could eat healthier, Sean.
We'll start with Tom's stuff, buddy.
I'm going to order some of those buckwheat pancakes. I love.
There you go. I'm going to try them too, Billy.
Yeah, they're really good. All right, Gracious Day. We thank Gracious Day Grains for their sponsorship.
Thank you.
And then his next comment is about our Double Cross episode. Sean and Bill, I listened to a portion of the show last night. Finished listening today. Both of you did a great job eviscerating that totally horrid book. Sean, your knowledge of how the mob functions internally, its machinery, is impressive. For a fellow like me who only has a limited knowledge of that organization, many of the names you mentioned were new. Some of them I recognize, but your focus on the illogic and nonsensical quality of the entire Giancana construct was very effective. Of course, as you mentioned, everything the book asserted about Marilyn, her relationships with JFK and RFK, and Giancana, who purportedly owned her career, are completely false, lacking even a scintilla of evidence. And she was not murdered with a damn suppository by men named Needles and Muggsy. I really enjoyed your slice and dice. LOL. How do books like Double Cross ever get published? Well, they sell, unfortunately. That's the problem.
And Bill, if I could just say two things, that as far as if the problem is with all this mob stuff and all this is all these theories that they have, the Double Cross book, and then you listen to Jeannie Carmen has a theory, and that clown Gianni Russo, they all have theories, but they all contradict each other.
Right.
So you have to pick what theory do you believe on the mob, and then from there it gets torn apart because it's nonsense, Billy. And the key to understanding the whole thing in the Mafia is all the suspects of these guys, and these guys that have an agenda to write a book that's a mob did it book.
Right.
They all blame the same guys. It's Giancana, it's Johnny Rosselli, it's Carlos Marcello, it's Santo Trafficante. The problem is, Billy, and you know this, Billy, the mob runs from the commission in New York.
Yeah.
The 5 families. So any big event that would affect the Mafia, the American Cosa Nostra at a national level, and certainly killing a U.S. president would affect it at a national level, has to be approved by the commission. And the problem with this theory, Billy, is as great a crime fighter as Bobby Kennedy was, and he's the greatest crime fighter. He's like Batman, Billy, before Batman. Yeah. He was a great crime fighter, but his Justice Department couldn't get to the commission because that was before RICO.
Right.
It wasn't to the RICO statute that they were able to get to the bosses of the commission because they're not the ones out there committing the crime. They were well insulated. So guys like Joe Bonanno and Vito Genovese and Carlo Gambino, they were hidden. And so was Tony Accardo in Chicago, hidden behind Sam Giancana. So these guys are not going to prove something that's going to bring the Marines to their doorstep. You understand what I'm saying? Like, they don't want the attention. They're well protected. They're well insulated. And it wasn't until the 80s, Bill, the mid-80s, when the commission trial happened, and they got, Fat Tony Salerno and Tony Dux Corallo and even Castellano, even though he got whacked before the trial, but they got him, indicted on that. And it wasn't until the mid-80s. So, you have to understand that, Billy. And once you understand that, all these mob did it theories just go out.
They all go away. Yep, absolutely. All right, Don, thank you very much for those comments.
Thank you, Don.
And for being a great guest. And we're going to have Don back, right? He's coming back.
He's working on a David Heyman episode, Billy, and he's been working on this for months. So this is going to be a huge episode. David Heyman's a guy that made up a lot of stuff. He made up the phony interviews with all these people. Remember, he was collecting obituaries.
Yeah, right.
People in Kennedy's circle and people in Marilyn Monroe's circle.
Right.
So Don's going to come back. That's going to be a great episode.
And make sure
that in the summer.
Make sure you pick up Don's book, Murder. What is it?
Yes.
Murder Orthodoxies.
Murder Orthodoxies. And check his website.
Yep. And his book is available on our bookshop, right?
Yes.
Okay. Check it out. All right. Thanks, Don. All right. Moving on here. Mary Ann Manley. Sean, if the movie types had brains, they would be like you and the other good guys. We are lucky to have you. Well, thank you, Mary Ann. Appreciate that.
Thank you. And again, Billy, it goes back to Hollywood. She's talking about Hollywood. The movies, this is why they keep regurgitating the same ideas. And reboots and everything. Like there's just, I don't know, Billy. I'm just this Hollywood's been a disappointment for a long time. A lot of this garbage just coming out of there.
Absolutely. Well, it's all about, trying to sell tickets. I think they're in a tough spot right now because I think COVID did a lot of damage to the movie business.
Yeah.
It's been on the decline for years, honestly. And I think, COVID really did I think you're seeing a lot of movie theaters close. The only theaters that are able to stay open are these big, the Cinemarks and those, Regal, those types. There's no more independent movie theaters. And it's, it's a shame because you used to be able to go to, to your local theater and, see even second run movies and you can't do that anymore. So, and then when you do go to the movies, I have kids and it's an expensive night out going to the movies.
It
now.
is. I just went a couple weeks ago, Billy, to see Godzilla and King Kong, and
and
that's an arm and a leg, buddy.
The tickets are if it's a if it's a 3D movie, even if it's just a standard movie, it's $13-14 for the tickets. Then you're paying, another $40-50 for candy and soda and popcorn. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy, Billy. I had 4 people, and then you have popcorn and everything else, and then if you go to dinner beforehand, I mean, you're looking at a nice bill at the end of the day.
Absolutely. Billy. Yep. So anyway, all right, let's move on. Joe Amato from Florida, and I think we've figured out this is not the Joe Amato that lived locally here that was a race car driver.
I don't think so.
Had we initiated and followed some of JFK's foreign policies, then we wouldn't be facing the tyranny that exists today. It's really a tragedy when certain media venues deliver such a canard and or extort an opinion from factual events. They twist the fate of an author's well-written article or book that presents facts from fiction. Sure, doesn't leave much room for credibility. Citizens have come to rely on fake news because it takes away their ability to think and express anything on their own. To rely on the majority, that's a sick thing because they're too lazy to do the research on their own.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
great comment.
We've been talking about this for a while. You can't, the news media right now, mainstream media, you just can't, you can't trust it. You can't take it seriously. Look how long they've been talking about JFK, Bill, and just doing the Oswald did it garbage. It's, and then they allow that book Double Cross to be put out there. It's amazing. The mainstream media says there's no conspiracies, but if there's a conspiracy that could embarrass the Kennedys, then they well, maybe that's possible, and they put that out there, and that ridiculous book Double Cross should not get any play on the mainstream media, but it did. It got a lot of play when it came out, and it came out right after the Oliver Stone movie, so that was probably planned that way. Yeah. Agree. Yeah. It's, it's about ratings. It's about keeping your attention through the commercial, because they want you to see.
And it's also, Billy, it's about not pissing off the people in power. That's what it's about.
Absolutely.
And they're told what to say. They're told what to do. And they're told what areas they can cover and what they can't. And that's the bottom line.
Yep. All right. Thank you, Joe. Appreciate your comment. All right. Kevin Sweeney from Boston. Billy and Sean, did you watch the series Ray Donovan on Showtime? And if so, what is your opinion on it? Also, can you recommend any shows on the mob that I should watch? Well, we definitely watched Ray Donovan. In fact, this podcast was going to be a Ray Donovan podcast.
Yeah.
Originally, we talked about doing an episode by episode podcast of Ray Donovan. That was years ago, and so we never did that, and we
should probably do an episode, Billy, coming up.
But
I got into that. Anybody who ever lifted at the Spectrum Health Club knows who George is, one of the owners there, and he was telling me every time I go in there, he'd be at the desk and he'd be telling me, Sean, you got to watch this movie. Ray Donovan. And, I just didn't have time. I wasn't watching it. And it was already in I think season 3 or 4. And finally, Mike Pilch watched it. And he said, Sean, you really got to see this movie. Or this series.
Show.
So finally I did. Finally I watched it. And I started right from the beginning. And right from the first episode, I was hooked. Yeah. And it was just great. I mean, the actor that plays Ray Donovan, Liv Schreiber, just tremendous. I mean, for him, he's a Jewish actor from New York.
Right.
To play an Irish South Boston guy, the way he does is so
Yeah.
convincing. He is just amazing. And then John Voight is tremendous. All the brothers are tremendous.
Right.
The whole cast is great, and it's just a really great show. And I heard Liv Schreiber say the one mistake that they made is, with the way they say the name Ray Donovan,
Right.
up in Boston would have been Donovan.
Donovan, right.
And that's, but other than that, I mean, it's really authentic. It's really original, and it shows, it shows a lot about Southie. And even though a lot of it took place in the West Coast, it still has that background in South Boston, and then they even did a little bit in New York, and it's really just a fantastic show, Billy.
Yeah, fantastic. I loved it. And then the movie I think that they put out to sort of end it was good as well. So yeah, classic series, and one day we're going to definitely do an episode on the show. Yeah.
And Bill, if I could, he says about give him some mob shows, or series that he should be watching. We mentioned Tulsa King,
right? That's a great one.
There's not a lot of news, Deb. Other than that, the mob genre stuff has not been great,
right?
Lately, and it's just like I said about Hollywood putting out the same garbage. But I want to say a series I recommend was one of my favorite from the '80s. Was a series Wiseguy. I used to watch it with my dad, and you didn't even watch this yet, Billy. But it's on Amazon Prime Video. They're showing it now. You could get it. I think there's like 5 seasons. But what just a tremendous show, Billy. It was on this character, Vinny Terranova, who was an undercover FBI agent in the Mafia. And there's so many great characters and so many great actors that were young at the time that started, like Kevin Spacey's in it. There's just Chaz Palminteri's in it. And these guys were just coming up at the time. And Ray Sharkey, I don't know if you remember Ray Sharkey. He died in the 90s. Yeah. But he plays a character called Salvatore Sonny Steelgrave. And he's just, what a character, Billy. He was a mob boss, and just this show is just so good, Billy. And I recommend that to everybody. It was ahead of its time, Billy. If you put that out like later on with when the Sopranos and everything, I put it right up there with the Sopranos. I really do, Billy. It's that good.
Yeah.
It's that good, and it's just it was a lot earlier. It was in the mid '80s.
Yeah.
But it was just I recommend that to everybody. Great show.
Yeah. All right, Kevin Sweeney. Sounds like a nice Irish guy from Boston.
Yep.
All right.
Him up there, Billy.
All right. Thank you, Kevin. All right. Green Man in Hartford, Connecticut. Sean and Bill, did you gentlemen see the documentary My Name is Bulger? I thought it was really great because it focused more on Billy the politician and not Whitey. I don't think I saw that one, Sean. I've seen a lot of documentaries on Whitey. I don't think I saw that one.
I seen this one, Billy. It's really good. It's really good. And what it shows is that it's like he said, it shows a lot on Billy, the state Senate president, more so than Whitey. But more importantly than that, it shows his whole family, because he had a huge family, Billy. I think he had like 12 kids, and then all his kids had kids. And it's just an enormous family. And the thing is that the media and the taint that the whole Whitey thing had on the entire family, people that had nothing to do with organized crime and Whitey's activities, is just unbelievable. The pressure and the stress that it put on the family, Billy, is really unbelievable. And a lot of it had to come from a couple sources. The media, number one, the Boston Herald really came down on them because they had a political agenda against the brother.
Yeah.
And another one was a guy that I think is a complete tool, and that's Howie Carr, that had a radio. He's a right-wing radio host, and he hated Billy Bulger, and he came after the Bulgers. And he said a lot of things that was incorrect, not true, and he put a lot of stress on the family. And another was Alan Dershowitz. Alan Dershowitz from the OJ trial.
Right. He
had a vendetta against Billy Bulger. And, people like that, and people in the Boston Herald, the Boston Globe, they really, put a lot of stress on the family. And I think this is an important documentary, Billy, because it shows, these people they had nothing to do with what Whitey was doing.
Right.
And like Billy's kids, They all went on to good careers and stuff, and had no involvement in organized crime. And yet the pressure of that name just tainted it. And I think you could probably say the same thing with John Gotti's family.
Sure.
Because I saw stuff on them where they, and even Sammy Gravano, a lot of times you got to understand that these guys don't want their kids involved in that stuff. And you can't condemn the entire family because of what one guy was doing,
Right. Yep. Agree. All right. So I don't know if it's Green Man or Greenman, but in Hartford, Connecticut, but thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Or ma'am. All right. Garrison for Prez in Tucson, Arizona. Hello, guys. Love the show. You two say LBJ wasn't one of the planners of the JFK assassination, but don't you believe that he had to at least know that Allen Dulles and the others were behind it?
Well, we talked about that, Billy, before. I mean, that weekend when everything's going on, at some point, Allen Dulles or LBJ, when he's talking to J. Edgar Hoover, and I think when J. Edgar Hoover tells him that, the Mexico City, when Oswald was supposedly in Mexico City, and his FBI agents heard the tapes of that Oswald in Mexico City, and it didn't match the voice of the Oswald that's in the jail, arrested for killing the president in Dallas. It's not the same guy. Once he realizes that there's an imposter, I think at that point, I think LBJ and Hoover, they're not stupid. Right. I think they realized, this was an inside job.
Yeah.
And this is where, they really go down to lone gunmen. They were, a lot of the CIA was trying to blame the Cubans and the Russians and the communists, and Hoover and LBJ wanted to avoid World War III. And, also I think they wanted to avoid going down the investigation towards an inside job. They don't want to investigate Allen Dulles or James Angleton or anybody like that. So, yeah, I think at some point, I think LBJ knew, probably quickly that weekend, he realized it was an inside job.
Yeah. And we spent a lot of time on this during the panel episode that we did last week. Yeah. So I recommend, Garrison, for Prez, that you go back and watch that, because it'll be video on YouTube, or if you just want to listen to it. But we do spend quite a bit of time on LBJ during that panel. So definitely check that out.
And he got a little heated, Billy. Got a little heated. There's a lot of emotion going on there. That was an intense episode.
A little bit. Yep. All right. So thank you, Garrison for Prez. Appreciate that. All right. Our second Arizona listener, Linda in Phoenix, Arizona. Sean, you always stick up for the mob and downplay their involvement in the JFK murder. I agree they did not mastermind it, but can you at least agree they played a role? Also, you mentioned David Morales in an episode. You and Bill should do an episode on him. Are you thinking about selling your house? Well, Bob Connors, a realtor at Christian Saunders Real Estate, says, I can't sell your house, but I sure as heck can market it and get it from sell to sold. Call Bob today for great marketing and to get a ton of eyeballs on your house. Are you in the market to buy a home? Not sure where to start? If it looks like something you shouldn't buy, Bob's going to tell you that. Think you can't buy a house or have no idea where to start? Been there, done that. Bob will get you going in the right direction. You can reach Bob at 570-614-3624 or 570-335-9000. And you can find Bob on Facebook at Bob Connors-Realtor. Whether you call Bob or not, please remember, stay awesome, all you awesome humans, and be kind to each other. Bob Connors, the realest real estater. And thanks to Bob Connors and Christian Saunders Real Estate for sponsoring That's Enough Out of You. That's Enough Out of You is also sponsored by Casa Quattro Winery, featuring over 20 flavors of wine, from dry red, dry white, and fruit for your sampling pleasure. Casa Quattro Winery offers entertainment, parties, and private events. Now serving a full menu with a little something for everyone, including appetizers, salads, dinners, pizza, and desserts. Casa Quattro has some of the best live entertainment in the area, with comedy and karaoke nights and live bands. Check us out on Facebook and Instagram for all of our upcoming events. And if you mention the code OUTA, that's OUTTA, you get 15% off of your order. Located on Main Street in Peckville, Pennsylvania, call 570-382 3855 for more information. And we thank Case Quattro Winery for their support.
I don't know, Bill. I keep getting this that I'm sticking up for the mob. I'm not sticking up for them, but you can't blame them for stuff they didn't do.
Right.
I mean, it's just like the masterminding thing. People can't separate certain mobsters being subservient to the CIA, like Johnny Roselli, who was a CIA contract agent,
Yeah.
and the mob masterminding it. You have to separate those two things. Johnny Roselli, you have to look at him. We talked about this with Lisa Pease. You have to look at Johnny Roselli as a CIA contract agent, not just a mafioso. You know, and once you do that, you understand. Did they have a role? What I see the role could have been was that they put pressure on Jack Ruby, probably through Roselli to Trafficante to Louis McWillie to take Oswald out once he's in custody. And also maybe they took out some witnesses after the fact. But there's also other ways. We talked with Jim with this. The CIA could have went to Gordon McClendon, who was friends with David Phillips, and also was very close to Ruby to put pressure on Ruby. So the mob involvement, individual mobsters could have been involved, sure. But the mob as an organization, no, they were not involved.
Right. I agree.
Separate those two things. And David Morales.
David Morales? I don't remember.
We talked about him. We talked about him quite a bit, Billy. Here and there. He's a mysterious character. Gaten Fonzie, who was on the House Select Committee on Assassinations, he wrote a great book, The Last Investigation. There's a whole chapter on David Morales. The Shadow Warrior, it's called. And David Morales was basically a CIA hitman, really. I mean, there's no other way to describe him. And we probably will do an episode down the road. We'll talk more about him. You know, we'll have Lisa Pease on. She did a lot of work on Morales. We'll talk about that with her. But very interesting character, Morales, and he's from out there in Arizona. So, you know, that's probably why Linda's asking about him. But he's an interesting character.
Okay. Interesting. All right, Linda, thank you. All right. Next one comes from Angelo, Big Ange, Mariucci. Bill, I'm going to go out on a limb here, but that song may have been better than your Gotti impersonation. He's talking about the American Patriot song. That aside, I really do not get the whole Swift uproar. He's talking about Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
I get more annoyed showing a normal play on instant replay from 100 different angles.
Sure.
Also, the Mafia is not going to have the power to lower security for the president. Well, we kind of just talked about that. Yeah. I'll say this, Sean, about Ange, and this will make him happy. The radio show that Michael K does, Michael K show, they have something called Point God, which is the person that has the best point of the day. I think this is the best point when Ange is talking about the replays in sports. That is my new pet peeve. I cannot stand if it's a play that there's a minuscule chance that, you know, maybe the guy's foot was, you know, partial, could have been touching, you know, his shoelace could have been touching the line, or, you know, in hockey, they look at offsides, or if they look at, you know, if the puck went in off a guy's foot, if there was a kicking motion, everything is replayed a million times. There's nothing that the referees call anymore that doesn't get replayed. It's ridiculous. And it's such a momentum killer sometimes, because, you know, if you score a big touchdown, if you hit a home run, if you score a goal, and it gets replayed, you know, if it gets reviewed and they have to look at it for 10 minutes, it's ridiculous. As a fan, you're sitting there, you're shaking your head. Like, I could see replay being used for the egregious missed calls, right? If a guy, his foot is clearly touching first base and he gets called out, or, you know, if there's pass interference and it doesn't get called and it's clear pass interference. Yeah, absolutely. Replay is good for that kind of stuff. But for these little tiny things that just, you can't expect anybody to see, you know, it's ridiculous, Sean. It
holds the game up, and Andrew's definitely right. You know, It's stuff like that. There's so many other things to get aggravated with other than showing Taylor Swift for 6 seconds. I don't understand people, you know what I mean? But again, people have success. A lot of people just maybe it's just jealousy. They have to knock them down and talk about them and this and that. But
absolutely, that's all it is. That's all it
You
is.
know, and Andrew's point though, Bill, at the end there about the mob would not be able to lower the protection. That's just another thing that they wouldn't be able to, you know, they wouldn't be able to pull this off.
Sure,
So
of
Andrew's
course
definitely
not.
right. The way it went down, the whole thing. So the mob is you know, a mastermind in the Kennedy assassination is just not possible. So people that have an agenda and are selling books and trying to say that, you know, push that angle, they just, you know, put a lot of stuff out there that's not true.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Thank you, Andrew. Appreciate that. All right. Scott Alfieri from California. Regarding Truman, I've heard rumors that he was connected to the Pendergast outfit in Kansas City, but have never looked into it in a real way. That doesn't mean he was connected to Giancana. Because of the letter Truman wrote a month after JFK's assassination, I think he's been a person to target using misinformation by the CIA, etc. I knew Dulles tried to get him to retract, and when he wouldn't make offhand comments that Truman was old, trying to make him out to be senile.
Yeah. Well, you know, when he mentions Pendergast, Bill, Pendergast was like, they were kind of the Irish mob in Kansas City, but they were like more of a political kind of outfit, political machine, kind of like Tammany Hall in New York, Billy. Okay. So the fact that they did have connections to Truman, I'm sorry, that's correct. Yeah, that's correct. But that doesn't mean they had that Truman had any connections to Cosa Nostra. You know, Pendergast and Cosa Nostra, now they dealt together. They had dealings together, but that doesn't mean that Truman had dealings with Cosa Nostra. I've never seen anything except that awful book on Double Cross. Giancana said that he had connections to Truman. That's the only thing I've ever seen, and that's, you know, thoroughly been discredited. So the Pendergast thing, you know, that's true. And they did try to discredit Truman because he put out that article. Remember, Billy, the month to the day of the Kennedy assassination, talking about the CIA, that he never intended them to be a regime changing outfit and stuff. And we talk about this on a panel episode, Bill. That's why I said about the use of the term rogue CIA. The rogue CIA has been a rogue outfit from the beginning. Right. You know, and they, you know, Dulles did try to discredit Truman. So a lot of this stuff did come out, you know, about him that wasn't true. So great comment there by Scott. Yep. Really good.
Yeah. Thank you, Scott. And Scott, also thank you for being a Patreon. Thank you, Ange, for being a Patreon. All of our Patreons, we appreciate it. All right, last one here, Sean. Another one from Latest Flame, and I don't know which episode he's talking about, but he says, "Great episode! Wow, the entire book is a work of fiction."
Double Cross. It must be Double Cross. Okay.
Yeah. No wonder it was promoted so heavily and coordinated to be released right when Oliver Stone's movie was having a tremendous impact. Anyone who reads about the mob would know damn well that even the boss of the Chicago outfit, let alone a street boss, wouldn't have the power to go against any single one boss in NYC. I think he means NYC, let alone the commission. Crazy stuff. Everyone who reviewed that book favorably or used it as a reference cannot be taken seriously whatsoever. And honestly, if they're journalists, they should look for another line of work.
Yeah, I agree. That book's terrible. And he does make a point there. I mean, you know, the mob on a national level, Bill, the commission's not going to prove that. You know, Giancana was a front boss. Tony Accardo's not going to prove that. And again, the Chicago on its own, even the commission on its own, they don't have the power to pull something like that off. They didn't even have the power to rig an election, Billy. We talked about that. They didn't control enough wards in the 1960 election. So they couldn't do it. So there's a power that the mob has, but there's a limit to it, Billy. There's a limit to it. Even at the height of their power, there's a limit. And this is something that they just could not have pulled off.
Right. Totally agree. All right, Sean. That's it.
Well, there are a lot of great questions, Bill. I'm a little disappointed we didn't get a sports question there. Usually Dotson from Miami usually throws something in, but you know, no sports questions.
Well, Ange had a little bit of sports.
That's true. He did. Yeah. He did.
There. So, and then we threw some in the beginning. So, all right.
Sure.
Well, another great question and comment episode. Our fans, their questions and comments, I think, Sean, are really intelligent.
And most of them.
Most of them.
Well, except for the Patriots. you know, and I want to say, you know, if people have put questions in there and we didn't get to it, we're trying to keep up with them all because there's still some, Billy, that we didn't get to.
Right.
And we also have more coming in. So we already have another 20 for another episode.
Yep.
So we're trying to keep up as much as we can, you know, so just have some patience with us. We'll get to your question, though. But keep them coming. Keep them coming. We appreciate it all.
Yep.
And, you know, we appreciate all our listeners.
Yep. We sure do. Our listeners, our Patreons, and sponsors, absolutely. So thank you guys. We appreciate it. And we couldn't do it without you, that's for sure.
No.
So, all right, Sean. Another great episode, and that's enough out of you.
Good night, everybody.
That's Enough Out of You podcast is executive produced and written by Bill Rader and Sean Kane and edited by Bill Rader. The That's Enough Out of You podcast and logo are exclusive property of Bags of Chicken, LLC. Any rebroadcast, retransmission, or accounts of this podcast without the express written consent of Bags of Chicken, LLC is prohibited. So don't even try it.